Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, increasing concerns over President Trump's interference in the Justice Department. Also tonight, a new minimally invasive procedure that could eliminate the need for open heart surgery. And a program that invites volunteers to take shelter dogs on day-long field trips. Those stories and more next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. The nomination of acting U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche was approved today by the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee. The vote followed Blanche reaching an agreement with two Republican holdouts regarding a compensation fund that President Trump wants to use to pay, among others, January 6th rioters. The agreement also limits a deal granting broad tax immunity to the president and his family. Now, Blanche's confirmation by the full Senate is not a done deal, with some Republicans joining Democrats with concerns over the acting Attorney General's close relationship with the president. Joining us now is former U.S. Attorney Paul Charlton, a partner at Denton's Law Firm. Always a pleasure. Good to see you.
Thanks to have me, Ted.
All right, so this is basically where we are right now. I mean, we're kind of hearing some rumblings that maybe not all Republicans in the full Senate are on board with this guy.
There's a lot to be concerned about and a lot to be focused on, including from the Republicans, as you say. Senator Tillis, who voted today to vote him out of the committee, has previously called this $1.8 million anti-weaponization fund a pot for punks to pay individuals who may have been involved in assaulting police officers on January 6th. And the immunity deal was so broad in its initial creation that it would have given Trump and his family immunity for not just for having failed to pay taxes in the past, but could possibly have been interpreted to protect them for having failed to pay taxes in the future.
Okay, so we got two big things here, and I want to get to both of these. We'll start with what is some are calling a slush fund here, this $1.8 billion. This is taxpayer money that and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here, but this is the result of the president essentially suing himself and paying himself. I mean, what's going on here?
Precisely right. It is an act in which the president sues the government that he leads. And so there's an idea that there is, in a very real way, collusion. In fact, the judge who had this matter in Florida is doing its own investigation to determine whether or not there was a fraud on the court, a pretend lawsuit in which both parties were agreeing to pay one and the other. The other aspect of this that I think is important for people to understand, Ted, is that this is very much like a contract. President Trump, his family, the Trump Organization entered into a contract with the Department of Justice in which they were to receive these funds, they were to receive this immunity. Whatever it is acting Attorney General Todd Blanche says he wants to do in the future to change that agreement cannot be changed unless President Trump, his sons, and the Trump Organization agree to that change. And so it means that everything Todd Blanche is telling the Senate now is a kind of window dressing over what is an agreement that makes a number of senators, Democrats and Republicans, uncomfortable.
I was going to ask you about that because the two holdouts, they wanted this in writing. They wanted to have, and the Attorney General, acting Attorney General, at first said, no, if I say it, we don't need it in writing. And then they said, if you don't put it in writing, we're not going to vote you out. So he says he's put it in writing. He does put it in writing. Is that binding?
It wouldn't be. If I sold you a car for $1,000 and then you agreed with somebody else not to buy the car, your discussions, your agreements with other people has nothing to do with our agreement. It's the same thing that's occurring here. This is a binding agreement between the president, his sons, his organization, and the Department of Justice. This is a kind of panacea, if you will, in which these senators recognize that they could change their minds, which is to say the president could change his mind later on, the Department of Justice could change his mind later on, but it was enough to assuage the two senators who were at that point in time objecting to his nomination.
But there is nothing to stop, once Todd Blanche is voted in as Attorney General, for the president to say, and he said he likes the idea of the fund. He wants to pay these people this money. I'm going ahead with it anyway.
And that's not the only concern with this Attorney General. This is an Attorney General who is overseeing a Department of Justice in which grand juries are refusing to return indictments, including our own Senator Mark Kelly. Now, why is that something that's remarkable? Because grand juries, and I've been in front of hundreds of them, never return no bills, never fail to return an indictment, because prosecutors typically have the kind of evidence that would support a probable cause finding by a grand jury and later a trial and proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Here, Todd Blanche, as the Deputy Attorney General and as the Acting Attorney General, has overseen prosecutions, investigations in which grand juries are repeatedly saying, we refuse to indict because there's insufficient evidence to support these charges. And so if this is an individual who doesn't seem to understand how it is the Department of Justice should operate in, and I use this word intentionally, a just fashion, then he may not be the right person to be confirmed for this position in which he leads that Department of Justice.
I want to get to the tax immunity aspect of this agreement too, because these are the two things that the two senators really wanted to see addressed. It sounds like there was some sort of limit regarding this tax immunity to the, I mean, goodness gracious, the president gets carte blanche here as far as his taxes. He doesn't have to do, and his family, they would be completely off the hook for anything.
Forbes magazine estimates that the total benefits to the president and his family is $600 million in taxes that he wouldn't have to pay as a penalty. But importantly, and again, the promise that now Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche is making to the Senate is a one-page document that's unsigned. And there's no agreement with the president that he has to comply with that. There's no agreement with his sons or with the Trump organization. They could, and the law would allow for a lawsuit to specifically enforce the broader immunity that would have protected the president for past events and for future events relating to his taxes.
So what's the what was the hubbub then? I mean, what they were saying, we're not going to go ahead unless you do this. Okay, I did this. What? No biggie?
And it even seems they acknowledge that this is something the two senators who were initially objecting, acknowledge is really a kind of promise that could easily be broken by Todd Blanche or by the president, but it was enough for them to change their votes.
Overseeing all this, and you've referred to this, is the idea at least, that the Justice Department is not the president's personal law firm. The president seems to think that it is, and it sounds like the previous Attorney General, the Acting Attorney General now, and who could very possibly be the next Attorney General, they don't seem to have a problem with that. Why should Americans be concerned that there is no firewall there?
A couple of reasons. Number one, if you've ever hired a lawyer, you know you want a lawyer who's going to give you an honest view, an opinion that reflects the law and the facts honestly, so that you're not misled into beginning a lawsuit that's going to end up terribly bad. That's the first piece of this. But this isn't just a hiring of a civil lawyer. This is a lawyer who can take our liberty interests away. This is a lawyer who can prosecute us and in some limited circumstances take our very lives through the death penalty. In that instance, you want a prosecutor, you want the lead prosecutor, the Attorney General, to be an individual who is fair and impartial and who can tell the President of the United States, we're not going to pursue your political enemies, we're not going to pursue your political goals, we're going to do what is right and what is just.
Does it seem like Todd Blanche is that guy?
It doesn't so far. His record betrays an inability to understand the distinction between his role as the leader of the Department of Justice and his previous role, remember, Ted, as President Trump's criminal defense attorney. He's indicated, and he said, if I'm nominated to be the President's Attorney General, I will tell the President, I love you. He had a misslip, I suppose you would say, maybe a Freudian slip, in which he indicated that he was the President's lawyer, corrected himself later on, said I was previously the President's lawyer. There seems to be a fundamental misunderstanding that the best kind of Attorney General is the Attorney General who can provide an honest view of the facts, an honest view of the law, and sometimes put the brakes on a politician's desire to use politics in pursuit of a criminal prosecution.
That said, real briefly, because we're running out of time here, let's say the Senate bands together and they say, no, this guy's got to go. Epstein files, we haven't even talked about those. They could be thrown. Could the next nominee be even more beholden to the president?
Here's what could happen as well. It could be, we don't know what the next Attorney General nominee might look like, but this Attorney General could stay in office as the acting Attorney General.
Yes.
And the President of the United States has said, if you don't confirm this nominee, I'll leave him in place as the acting Attorney General, and there is precedent for that. But in this instance, it'll be someone who needs to understand in a much more profound way the distinction between his role as the President's lawyer and our lawyer as the Attorney General of the United States.
Former U.S. Attorney Paul Charlton, great stuff. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining
having
me.
How much money are we talking about?
A lot.
something succeeds like success, I would do anything for this family.
It's the stuff of dreams.
I'll make him sorry.
Where are they?
Everyone said we couldn't lose.
Not on our side.
I'm warning you.
Sunday night at 9 on Arizona PBS.
Great solutions come from very humble places.
I'm Miles O'Brien, and I'm searching the globe for solutions.
This part of the world has 3 wild jaguars.
Undeniably, it's melting. The question is why?
Join me.
Can we adapt?
Yes, we will adapt. There is no choice.
Let's meet the big, bold thinkers
If you have an opportunity to make an impact, why not do it now?
with a resolve to solve.
Coming in August to Arizona PBS.
I hear you have a story for me.
Then it gets interesting.
It gets interesting.
Yeah, I don't think there's many places in the world quite like this.
Second is never good enough. Only being at the top. You are in a different world now.
Enjoy the journey.
A first-of-its-kind surgery was recently performed at Banner University Medicine Heart Institute. It's a minimally invasive procedure that involves replacing a damaged heart valve without the need for open heart surgery. To learn more, we welcome Dr. Paul Saraja, Associate Director of Banner University Medicine Heart Institute. And you've been on the program before because you guys are doing great stuff over there as far as Heart Institute, valves with you. What mitral valve we had last time?
Mitral, yeah, we talked about mitral before.
All right, now we're talking tricuspid valve leak. You're talking talk to what does that mean?
Well, thanks for having me back. So tricuspid regurgitation is a leaky valve on the right side of the heart. The heart has a left and a right. And when the tricuspid valve leaks, it creates congestion in the organs that drain the liver and kidneys and also the bowels, leaving patients feeling fatigued, congested, and sometimes in the hospital.
Easy enough to diagnose?
It's actually one of the diseases that we've described as one of the forgotten ones because it's kind of on the right side of the heart. It's a little bit downstream. The sounds that it makes tend to be a little bit quieter. And so it's actually historically being underdiagnosed.
Interesting. Okay, so you first in the nation surgery to do something, but this used to be almost always open heart surgery, correct?
Correct. Yeah, and historically, when we look at the field of valve disease in general, valves have always been able or needed to be treated with repair replacement using open surgery, where a surgeon opens a chest to get at the valves and directly sew or replace them. Over the past 15 years, we've moved towards transcatheter means where we can go through people's veins and come up and repair these valves.
Now this, though, is something even different than that, correct?
Yes. That's correct. And so over the past 10 to 12 years, the field of transcatheter repair has really just exploded. We've learned a lot about how to treat these patients and be initially successful. But what we've learned is that sometimes as patients go along, these repairs can actually become, for lack of a better word, fall apart or leak again, which needs another re-repair.
Does this, first of all, describe the procedure, exactly what goes on here.
So when a patient has a leaky valve after an initial repair, they're often left with no choice. And that is because they're often elderly or they have morbidities or they have reasons that drove them to have the transcatheter procedure first. In those situations, historically, open surgery would be pursued, but it'd be at a high cost because these patients are elderly. So what we invented was a new technology where we can go up the vein in the leg and actually undo the repair that was done and then replace the valve.
When you say undo the repair that was done, is that where those clips were involved?
That's right. You remember well. That's right. So the most common repair procedure now is a clip procedure where we take two sides of the valve and put them together where they're leaking. And what we do now in this procedure is, for the first time in North America, is to come up, take the clips out, and put a new valve in.
Put a brand new valve?
Brand new valve in, that's right.
So with the new valve in there, you should not have to see this patient again?
Well, we still follow them regularly. In fact, he sent me a message this afternoon on my way here, and we still follow them in the continuity of care.
But as far as the procedure is concerned, this should pretty much be it, huh?
That's correct, because a valve replacement takes away all of the.
Wow. This patient you're talking about, this first-in-the-nation surgery,
Yes.
this was an 89-year-old gentleman?
It was. He's from Surprise. He's told me he'd love to come on the show sometime if you want to have him.
Okay, all right.
But he's doing amazing.
But again, at 89 years of age, open heart surgery, not really an option, was it?
Yeah, so most of the time when they reach 89 years of age or anywhere near that, we're often looking at hospice or other palliative means.
So recovery, what kind of recovery time are we talking here?
So typically after this procedure, it's only a couple of days in the hospital.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty quick.
And that compares to the open heart surgery days, which involved all sorts of things, I would imagine.
Yeah, for an 89-year-old, typically it's 1 to 2 weeks or sometimes even longer if there are complications. And so 1 or 2 days is actually quite remarkable.
In reading about this, you were helped by the FDA's Expanded Access Program. What does that mean?
So what that means is that for new technologies that are not commercially available, we have to go through a special access process. And this is done with the support of Banner, which was amazing in terms of helping us get this through. With Banner support, we were able to apply to the FDA to get an exemption to be able to do this technology.
And now that you've done this technology and that it is a success, is it full speed ahead? I mean, do you still have to go through the process every time?
So right now, because it's still quite early, the FDA is requiring us to go through the usual process of an early feasibility study, which will then lead to a pivotal study, which then hopefully will lead to commercial approval.
Very good. And we talked about you being on the program before. You guys are doing all sorts of things over there. I understand research with arrhythmia, because a lot of folks have arrhythmia in some way, shape, or form.
That's right. Yeah, so arrhythmias are really common. Most of the population in this age group have arrhythmias. There's a lot of research going on there too. And
preventing cardiac arrest by way of immunotherapy. I saw that as well.
That's right. Wow, you're really well read.
Well, I'm trying. But so people with taking immunotherapies,
that's right.
That can be a factor.
That's right. Yeah, because actually when we look at a lot of cardiovascular disease, is actually inflammatory. And so if we turn off the immune system, we can get out to a lot of disease that way.
So when you're dealing with this and when you're dealing with this particular procedure that now you've got a success story and you're going full speed ahead, how long does it take in development?
Well, for drugs, it can be many years. It can be 10 to 15 years. For devices like this, it's generally about 8 to 10 years. And
wow,
it's
that long,
quite expensive. Yes, it's actually a long process. So I didn't mention I was lucky. I was lucky to be the founder of this company, and this company was founded 5 years ago, and it's taken us 5 years just to get to this point.
Yeah, well, congratulations on this, again, first in the nation heart surgery, a procedure without open side back. This 89-year-old fella, he must be just clicking his heels back at home.
He's really happy.
Well, it's good to have you. Dr. Paul Saraja, again, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Maricopa County Animal Care and Control is offering an opportunity for volunteers to take shelter dogs on day-long field trips away from the shelter. It's a chance to give the dog an adventure and a much-needed break from shelter life. It also could help lead to the dog finding a new forever home. Kim Powell is with Maricopa County Animal Care and Control. And who do you have with you there?
This is a really cute puppy named Baby Socks.
Baby Socks.
You know, after 750 dogs or so, we run out of name ideas, so here we are.
That's all right. I'm sure she probably doesn't even know it's her name.
No.
How long has she been in the shelter?
She came into the shelter on July 31st as a stray, so she was found running around on a street, and a family took her in. They weren't able to find the owner for us. She didn't have a microchip or a tag or anything, so she waited her stray hold, and now she's available for adoption.
Oh, wow. Okay. And she is could very well be part of Tales Around Town, the program. What is this program all about?
Yeah, so usually for the Tales Around Town program, we focus on dogs that are struggling to get adopted. So I would not be surprised if Baby Socks gets adopted very quickly.
Yes.
But we try to get dogs that are struggling to be seen in the shelter and are spending a little too long in their kennels. Tales Around Town program is a way for them to get out of their kennels and go have a day out on the town with just anyone. It can be a member of the public. They don't have to be a technical volunteer at the shelter. They sign up online and they show up. We pick a dog out for them. We give them a backpack with all the goodie supplies, and then they go off on their adventure for the day.
Let's say I'm calling up and I say, I want to take a dog on a field trip.
Yeah.
What's the process? What do you ask me, and what do I get to ask you?
Yeah, so you can just technically, we'll have you sign up online. You'll fill out a little application. You can ask, if let's say, you don't really want a dog that's going to pull a lot, you can absolutely request that. Or there are some people that would prefer dogs that are more on the shy side, like they like to see them come out of their shell. So especially if you've done it a few times, because we definitely have repeat Tales Around Towners.
Yeah, I'll bet.
You can kind of request what type of dog you take out. Again, we tend to do it with dogs that are at the shelter longer, which are sadly the bigger dogs as well.
Well, when it's a bigger dog, and let's say again, I'm the guy calling in. I say, I want a bigger dog, but I don't want this, but I do want that. Can you fill that order, or is it more like, hey, you look like you would be good for this particular dog?
Depending on what you're asking for, we probably can find a dog. Like I said, we have 750 dogs. So
Yeah,
there's a pretty good chance that we have a good one in mind that can fit really anyone's personality type. Some people, especially when the weather is a lot nicer, they want to go out for a hike with a dog. Well, we don't want to set them up with a dog that is maybe a little overweight or maybe on the older side. So we're going to set them up with a dog that has a ton of energy, that wants to go on that hike, and that's really going to enjoy the hike and benefit from it. Or if you're like, I'm just going to bring them back to my house and we're going to relax, then we might give you that senior dog that just kind of wants a couch to nap on.
Yeah, and that could be a field trip, couldn't it? Like
absolutely.
Come home and just wander around the house.
Yeah, absolutely. I think having them in a home environment really helps them decompress from the shelter life. And the sad reality is a lot of the dogs in the shelter aren't sleeping. They get stressed out. They don't know why they're there, of course. There are other barking dogs, or for whatever reason, they're just not getting good sleep. So if you bring them into your home, they might just want to take a really long nap, and that is perfectly fine.
Isn't that interesting? That's great.
And that really helps them too, because the shelter can be very stressful for dogs, and they can start to deteriorate, and it's really depressing to watch. It's very heartbreaking, and just get them out of the shelter for even a day kind of sets that back, and it resets them, and they're back to their normal selves for at least a little bit.
And I would imagine you take a dog out for a walk. Let's say it's not a couch potato. You kind of go out for a walk. Well, people are always commenting on dogs, and this is a good way to introduce a whole bunch of folks to a dog that might need a new home.
Yes, absolutely. And in that backpack that we give people who are going on Tales Around Town is a little thing that will clip onto their leash. I should have brought one today, but it says "Adopt Me." And so we'll have, and there's also a vest. The backpack says "Ask me about my dog," and it kind of just caters to starting that conversation of, hey, who is that dog, and can I have that dog? And there are plenty of stories where people come back from their Tales Around Town adventure, and they bring back someone with them who wants to adopt the dog.
Oh, that's a great story.
And that's the goal.
Oh, yeah, that's a great story. Great result. Can families okay? Kids okay? How does that fit?
Yeah, absolutely. And we recommend bringing everyone with you when you pick up the dog, and that way we are able to cater to the right family, right dog to the right family. There are some dogs that we know are super jumpy, so if you have young children, we probably won't give you that type of dog. We'll give you one of the calmer ones. And again, we'll just try to fit it to the lifestyle and the adventure that you have planned.
Sounds like you need your own car.
Yes. Yeah, bring your own car. That is probably the one requirement that we ask for. Have transportation, especially in the hot weather right now. We don't want people walking around near the shelter to go to their destination.
And you don't want to take the car and the dog too far out of town, do you? Or even out of town at all?
Well, here's the thing. You got to return the dog by 5 p.m. So if you don't, you have a new dog.
I see.
Congratulations, you adopted. But no, we do ask people to stay somewhat close. A lot of people, we hear them going to the Riparian Preserve, the Tempe Town Lake. That's another popular spot. And if weather permitting, up a mountain hiking right now, not the best idea, of course. Or they'll just go to their house or a PetSmart nearby, any dog-friendly place. In that backpack, we have a list of dog-friendly stores and restaurants that they can go to just for a couple hours.
Okay, real quickly, before you go, where can we find out more information? Where can people find out more information?
Yeah, go to our website, maricopa.gov/pets. There's a Tales Around Town link right there. Just click on that. I will say we are on a little bit of a summer hiatus just because it's so hot out, but keep looking. Appointments open up all the time.
All right, Baby Socks, you need to calm down a little bit there.
She's ready for her nap.
Kim, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
When you want to be more adventurous, Arizona PBS delivers the wonders of the world. Thanks to